Lawmakers' deliberation and approval of President Tinubu's declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State.
Those in support of this request from Mr. President as amended should say aye. Those against should say nay. There is have it.
And the Senate resolve as follows.
Details of these and other proceedings of the National Assembly on today's edition of the program The Maze on ASO Television. I am Rosemary Ukokotega. You are most welcome. A little time out now before we get down to business.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
This is The Maze on ASO Television. We are live on DSTV 392, Star Times TV 127, Free TV 507, UHF Band 38. All editions of The Maze are on ASO Radio and Television YouTube channel. Check them out. We open the floor today with legislative deliberations as aftermath of the declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State by President Tinubu on Tuesday night. After the president's pronouncement, spokesman of the House, Honorable Rotimi Akin Jr., updated that the matter would be taken at the Green Chamber during plenary. This couldn't hold, and the plenary was rather adjourned due to poor attendance by members. However, we have here a short moment of lawmakers' disagreement on the matter just before commencement of the day's plenary. Well, the matter was brought up during the plenary on Thursday. Members approved President Tinubu's proclamation with some amendments, including constitution of a National Peace and Reconciliatory Committee to mediate among parties involved in political crisis in Rivers State. Now to how it went down.
Honorable colleagues, the only order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of a bill, or this request from Mr. President concerning the State of Emergency Proclamation 2025 for River State. Which is in line with Section 305, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I now call upon the Leader of the House to move that the House. So, Majority Leader, please can you lead the debate on this particular request from Mr. President?
Mr. Speaker, constitutional point of order.
Who is raising the point of order? Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, since the President's letter concerns proclamation, Mr. Speaker, the constitutional procedures that must be followed as enshrined in Section 305, subsection 6B, that says for us to consider this President's request that this House must have two-thirds of members present. Mr. Speaker, may I please ask?
We already have our attendance registers, honorable colleague, and we will rely on that to ensure.
Mr. Speaker, this is a constitutional.
Yes,
Can we do a head count, Mr. Speaker?
That
to
is
ascertain that we have a quorum.
Yes.
To ascertain that we have.
Yes,
that we have
our attendance register will guide us accordingly, honorable. Please.
Sir?
Our attendance registers will guide us accordingly. Members are still signing, and at the end of the day, we'll take attendance.
Mr. Speaker, can that be made available now for the members to know whether we have formed a quorum? Whether we have formed a quorum, Mr. Speaker, as enshrined in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, so that our deliberations are not going to be deliberations based on illegality.
It is noted, honorable. Please, you can sit down. Sit down, please. Your point of order is noted. Please sit down. The Leader of the House, please, can you lead?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that the road.
Order, please. Order, please.
Mr. Speaker, I believe.
Let him talk. I will allow you to talk. Please. No problem. Let him start talking. When he finishes, I will recognize your own.
Please.
I understand. I will recognize you.
You are talking while you are seated,
please. Let him finish talking. I will recognize you. I will recognize you after his opening statement. I will recognize you to talk. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My dear colleagues, I think once again this House has been summoned to leave an indelible mark on the pages of Nigeria's political history. And I believe that, as we've always done, carrying the interests of our people and the nation at large at heart, we will all rise to the occasion. There is no doubting the fact that we have our differing definitions of democracy, of transition, state of emergency, and whatever, within and outside the Constitution. But the road to where we are today is known to everyone in this hall. Nobody is a stranger, so I don't need to be reminding you or telling you who did this, who didn't do this. That there has been failure in certain sectors, particularly those of us who call ourselves leaders of the Niger Delta. There is no doubt about that, because if we did our work well, if we went to the grassroots and mobilized our traditional religious leaders and critical stakeholders, we may not be where we are here today. It's our primary responsibility. And I was with the former president yesterday night, and I told him that. It's from my region. So I think the request from Mr. President is very clear. A state of emergency has been declared. Certain terms have been enunciated. You have also given us how we're going to mediate some of these terms in order to make them more practicable and to ensure that nobody is hamstrung. But ultimately, Mr. Speaker, we have a duty to move Nigeria forward. And I believe that even if we are given a vehicle that has 3 tires, our job is to add the 4th tire to it so that that vehicle can move and get to its destination. I think I appeal to our colleagues here to know that we stand on the precipice of history, because the time comes, as I always say, in the history of every organization, every home, every nation, every society, when you must pause and reflect. Where were we coming from? How did we get here? What have we done so far? And how do we want to move forward? We want Rivers State to move forward. I have lived in Rivers State. I have worked there. I taught there for many years. And I produced students who have been former governors, current ministers, former ministers. And I'm proud of them all. It's a wonderful state. The flora and fauna, the culture, the people are warm, accommodating, tolerant, inclusive in their thinking. And I believe that the responsibility we have now is how do we recreate the platform for Rivers to move forward. Because when I organized an international conference about 2-3 years ago or so, we did it in Port Harcourt. And I brought in people from 18 countries to Port Harcourt to discuss democracy. I want to appeal to all of us. We have our own biases. I have mine. But on this issue, let us move in step with the President, assist him to have a better proclamation, and let's begin to work from day one to ensure that we create the processes, the conversations, the negotiations that are necessary to bring sustainable, durable, lasting, inclusive peace to Rivers State. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, why I'm coming again is simple. You are a man who have given leadership to this House. You have led us well, even in times that there are bills that were very challenging to the nation and to this country. You have shown, and your leadership has made Nigerians to have confidence in this House. Mr. Speaker, the issue we are debating right now in second reading is a constitutional matter, and Constitution has prescribed what to do, Mr. Speaker. It is in the integrity and interest of this House, Mr. Speaker, for you to announce the quorum as we are seated, so that Nigerians will know that we are not circumventing the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is not about either supporting or opposing what Mr. President has said, but because of your impeccable leadership, the kind of leadership you have given to us in this House, and the kind of leadership that Nigerians have come to believe in, Mr. Speaker, it is good enough, and I urge you that we comply strictly with the Constitution by first transparently announcing the quorum as it is now for us to go into this debate. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Abedi, for your contribution. I want to assure you we will not do anything that will undermine the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whatever we are going to do today will be in total compliance. So please be rest assured of that. Honorable Wase.
Mr. Speaker, it has been established by all Nigerians and the international community that indeed there is a problem in Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, it has also been established before this Parliament through the letter that you just read that a state of emergency was declared by Mr. President, and that is already in force in Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament, when we came on board, was christening the People's House. And one of our major achievements in this House has always been to provide solutions to problems as far as the country is concerned. We are all aware of the doughty challenges that face us today, the state of our democracy, and we are here as a people, as representative of Nigerians, to provide solutions and to ensure that our democracy works for the people of our country. Mr. Speaker, it is in that vein that I want to make a recommendation to what Mr. President has sent to us. Yes, it would have been good for every one of us to behave the way we wanted to do.
but because of our collective interest and the way we have buried our personal sentiment to work for Nigerians, we have said we'll work in line with the Constitution and to work with the tools that are available to us towards building a greater Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, it is in that respect that I want to say that the recommendations made in the proclamation by Mr. President, that in the wisdom of this House, that we play with it in a way and manner that it will help to build our democracy and make Nigeria a better place. And my recommendation is that we have seen in time past when this country was at the point of precipice, where national committees were set up. And we have also seen in time past, even when there are no constitutional provision, the doctrine of necessity was invoked, to give life back to the country. And it is in that vein that this state of emergency has been declared in Rivers State. Not because Mr. President hates any of the groups involved, but because Mr. President wants something better, for our country. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to recommend that a national committee be set up to comprise of the executive, members of the parliament, and eminent Nigerians, like we have seen in the past where during the election we had General Salam Abubakar and His Eminence Bishop Hassan Kuka coming together to ensure that there is peace across the country. That we make, as part of the recommendation to support the letter by Mr. President, that a committee of eminent Nigerians be set up to mediate, to ensure that there is peace in Rivers State. So that within the period of the emergency rule in Rivers State, the Parliament, working with the executive and other eminent Nigerians, will ensure that we all work together to make sure that the things that led to the emergency rule in Rivers State does not resurface after a period of time. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you, Honorable Abesin. Is there anyone who is in support of this position of amending this particular request of Mr. President to include, among others, constitution of the Peace and Reconciliation Committee? Anyone who is in support of this? Yes, Honorable Ibrahim.
This morning I rise to second the motion as moved by my brother, Honorable Philip Agbese. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those who are in support of this additional insertion into the request of Mr. President should say aye. Those against should say nay. There is have it.
Amendment.
It's an amendment now, but we need to get support of people to say they are in support of the amendment. Thank you. So the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I listened attentively to the message of Mr. President, and I cannot but agree that the bottom line is for peace to come to Rivers State. Whichever way it comes, legitimately, the ultimate goal is to have peace in Rivers State. And this position was even giving credence to the Rivers State governor when he said a time ago that no sacrifice that he cannot make for peace, to come, to Rivers, State. We must embrace that idea of the governor, and indeed as pushed forward by Mr. President. However, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President has invoked Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I do not want to go into academic debate on what Section 305 is all about, but it's a proclamation, for an emergency rule. However, Mr. Speaker, I have some few amendments, to make. Section 305 cannot be read in isolation of Section 11, subsection 4 of the same Constitution. And that deals with, if you permit me to read, that at any time when any House of Assembly of a state is unable to perform its function, by reason of the situation prevailing in that state, the National Assembly may make such laws for the peace, order, and good government of that state with respect to matters on which a House of Assembly may make laws as may appear to the National Assembly. for on and on. But the bottom line here is I listened to Mr. President's proclamation where he said that the sole administrator will be reporting to the Federal Executive Council. Mr. Speaker, I disagree, with that position and insist that the provision of Section 11(4) of the Constitution should take precedence over that. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any seconder to this additional prayer? This particular area, let me recognize Honorable Deacon.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Achike John Okafor, PhD, and I rise this solemn day to second the motion that Section 11, subsection 4 of the Constitution should be taken into effect. I so second that motion as ably moved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, this is an additional area of request that Honorable Benedict is requesting the House to add on the request earlier presented by Mr. President. So those who are in support of this additional insertion into the request should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is it.
Mr. Speaker, I believe with strong commitment, the matter in Rivers can be resolved within the shortest period of time. I believe that matter can also be resolved maybe next week or upper week, which I believe if the President showed commitment and all the leadership too has shown commitment, we don't need to wait for a longer period of time. Within the shortest period of time, the matter can be resolved. So I believe the President should be given opportunity to amend, retain the positions of declaration, but with review of the state of emergency at any given time. That the House direct the declarations of the state of emergency stated for the stated period, but the President can terminate, review the state of emergency at any time within the period, but not later than 6 months. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
So if I get what you are trying to say, Honorable Ali JC, is that, hold on, honorable colleagues, you are saying that the President doesn't need to wait until the expiration of the 6 months before he can lift this suspension, right? That if by tomorrow Rivers State will wake up and everything is okay, he has the right to say, okay, the state of emergency should come to an end. So rather than just tying us to 6 months, you are saying at any given time, between the first day after the passage of this particular request, the President is at liberty to lift this suspension. Is that what you are saying? Okay, please can we get somebody to second? Honorable Miriam.
This morning I rise to second this motion as moved by my brother Ali Jesse, that this House do support the proclamation in view that it could be reviewed shorter than the 6 month period when the two parties come to table, whether it's tomorrow or even earlier than that. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in support of this request should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is it. Any more contributions? Any more contributions? So we put the question. Are we ready for the question? Are we ready? Those in support of this request of Mr. President as amended should say aye. Aye. Those in support of this request from Mr. President as amended should say aye. Those against you say nay. There is have it. Thank you very much. Clerk.
Similar proceeding went down on the floor of the Red Chamber. The Senate announced its approval after a closed-door session. Here.
In compliance with the provisions of Section 305, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, I hereby forward for the consideration of the Senate copies of the official gazettes of the State of Emergency Proclamation 2025. The main features of the proclamation are as follows: a declaration of a state of emergency in one state of the Federation, namely Rivers State, the suspension from office of the governor, his deputy, and all members of the State House of Assembly, and appointment of Vice Admiral Ibogache Ibas, retired, as administrator to administer the state subject to any instructions or regulations as may from time to time be issued by me. While I look forward to the expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This letter is committed to the Committee of the entire Senate for immediate consideration.
We must have mutual respect for all of our colleagues, okay? And I do have regard for you, particularly as our presiding officer.
I appreciate
And I think that should be reciprocal. Now, the point of order, Mr. President, is to draw the attention of the presiding officer and our colleagues to the specific provisions of our rules. Each one of us is guided by two documents: the Constitution of the Federal Republic, upon which we were sworn, and the rules that govern our proceedings. The proclamation has been read to us, and I wanted to draw your attention, Mr. President, respectfully, and the attention of all our colleagues, to the specific provisions of our rules. Order 135. The framers of this are very exhaustive. Once you say state of emergency declaration, there is a procedure.
Can you read 135?
Let me read it. Say, look, 133. When the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, by instrument published in the Gazette of the Government of the Federation, issues a proclamation of a state of emergency in the Federation or of any part thereof, he shall immediately after the publication, A, B, C, D. Now, since you have read it, now let me go to 135. The President shall, in a closed session, brief the Senate on the circumstances of the proclamation of a state of emergency.
Your point of order is upheld.
Thank you. So let's go to the closed session.
Please, he was about to move the motion for a closed session.
Thank you, sir.
In line with our rules. The rule is embedded in the heart of the Senate leader. He was about to move that motion for us to go to closed session.
Yes.
When you raise it, but I'm happy that you are reading your rules. So your point of order is happily upheld. On the state of affairs in Rivers State. And the Senate resolved as follows. 1. The Senate invokes the powers conferred on it by Section 305, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, and approve the proclamation of state of emergency declared by Mr. President in Rivers State of Nigeria. The Senate further directs that the declaration of the state of emergency stated in the proclamation document and the mandate of Mr. President to review, and hereby mandates the President to review and even to terminate the state of emergency at any given time, but not later than 6 months. The Senate further resolved that Section 11, subsection 4 be invoked, providing the National Assembly the authority to set up a joint ad hoc committee of both chambers to oversight the administration of Rivers State henceforth.
Now, President Tinubu had on Tuesday night in a live nationwide broadcast declared state of emergency in Rivers State, citing breakdown of law and order arising from political crisis in the state, suspending Governor Simlaye Fubara, his deputy and members of Rivers State House of Assembly for an initial period of 6 months. The president also on Wednesday sworn in retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas as sole administrator for the period. We go over now to other matters from the two chambers within the week, and we begin with the House. 3 urgent motions bordering on insecurity were on the floor of the House precisely on Wednesday. The House adopted all 3 of them and referred them to corresponding committees. Honorable Rabiu Garba from Kebbi State moved the first motion on the urgent need to deploy security personnel to curtail killings by terrorists in communities of Arewa local government area in Kebbi State.
The House may note with great concern alarming increase in cases of attack and killings on communities and villages by Lakurawa bandits in Arewa local government of Kebbi State, which has led to displacement of many residents and created severe humanitarian crisis in this Ramadan season. Also note that Lakurawa terrorist group has been operating since last year, 2024, in northern parts of Kebbi State, where over 15 people were killed initially in Augi local government. Disturbed that 2 weeks ago, the same Lakura terrorist group killed 6 people in Bagiza and Rausankade and Ransak communities in villages still in Arewa local government. Also disturbed that on Sunday, 16th of March 2025, the same Lakura group attacks and set ablaze 6 communities, namely Building Debi, Tunga Daura, Amarke, Amazubi, Tambo, and Garen Nagoro, all in Arewa local governments of Kebbi State. Concerned that the Lakura terrorist group present also noticed their presence in Maigwaza and Road and Besa communities and other villages in Dundee local government of Kebbi State also. Worried that these attacks have created so much fear in the rural communities and villages in Arewa local government, resulting into mass movement of people from various communities and villages to Kangiwa, the headquarters of the local government, where RDP camps has been established. The House resolved to urge the security agencies to urgently deploy more security personnel to curtail the menace of this terrorist group in the affected villages. Also, urged the Nigerian Army to establish a forward observation base and operational base in Arewa local government for prompt response to these terrorist incessant invasions. Also urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to provide relief materials to the affected communities, villages, and those in RDP camps in Kangiwa, that's in Arewa local government. Also observe a 1-minute silence in honor of those who lost their lives, and also mandate the House committees on Army, Police, NEMA, and the legislative compliance to ensure compliance. Mr. Speaker, I so moved.
The second motion was moved by Honorable John Dafar from Plateau State, and this is on the urgent need for the federal government to intervene to stop the banditry and kidnappings in communities in Plateau State. Honorable Dafa's motion was seconded by Honorable David Agada from Benue State and Honorable Gagdi from Plateau made contribution.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the House notes that the relentless banditry attacks and kidnapping in Namu and Wal districts in Kwanpan local government area of Plateau State have reached catastrophic proportions, necessitating a need for immediate federal intervention as the inhabitants of Namu and Wal have recently been invaded by bandits, killing not less than 8 people and scores seriously injured. And more than 15 people have been kidnapped. Further note that Namu and Wal are agrarian, with 90% of its citizens relying solely on their farm produce as a source of livelihood. Worried that the continued incidents of banditry and kidnapping around Namu and Wal districts axis have adversely affected their performance and their microeconomic activities in the communities and its environs. Also note that the bandits are suspected to be foreign elements going by their physical appearances and mode of communication, and aware that the people who were injured in the avoidable incidents of banditry attacks are hospitalized while so many are rendered homeless. Resolve, Your Excellency, to observe a minute's silence in honor of the deceased and to urge the Chief of Defense Staff, the Inspector General of Police, and other security agencies to deploy additional security personnel to flush out these bandits and restore peace in Namu and Wal communities. Urge the Director General of the Department of State Service and other intelligence agencies to strengthen intelligence network to preempt and respond effectively to attacks and foster collaboration with local communities to identify and address underlying issues fueling banditry. Urge the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs through the National Emergency Management Agency and National Committee for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons to, as a matter of urgency, provide relief materials to the affected communities. Mandate the House Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure compliance. I so move, Your Excellency.
Mr. Speaker, it's just by way of adding value to what my brother, Honorable Dafan, put together regarding to his constituency. And to equally, perhaps, the security agencies, if they are listening to us, will understand the strategic situation in Plateau and how Plateau is now being surrounded by bandits and other organizations that are killing people on a daily basis. Sometimes I spoke about Kanam, Panshinkanke. Kanam Wasei, boundaries, Taraba, is a big thick forest that link to that. Namu Shandam Kwanpan, boundary Nasarawa, is another thick forest that culminate into the influx of some of those things. Mr. Speaker, adding security personnel is not enough until and unless a classified operation is conducted to comb the villages, the forests, the thick forests surrounding Garga axis in Kanam local government, surrounding Wasei in Taraba axis, surrounding Namu, that boundary Nasarawa. We are in a terrible situation in Plateau, Mr. Speaker. Let the security agencies help the situation. The bush, the forest, that thick forests that have become a safe haven to bandits, to kidnappers, need to be combed. There should be an intelligent-led security operation that will be able to, reduce the suffocation in those forests so that Plateau people can breathe air. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to put the question. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to Committee on NEMA, Defense, Police, as well as National Security and Intelligence. as well as Legislative Compliance Committee of the House.
The lawmaker from Abia State, Honorable Chris Nkwanta, moved the third urgent motion on the kidnapping of one Chief Lawson in a local government area of Abia State.
The House notes that the recent alarming incident on March 4, 2025, where the chairman of Board of Trustees of the Petroleum Retailers Outlet Association Owners of Nigeria, Chief Lawson of Basi, was kidnapped by gunmen in Azumini, Okwa East local government area of Abia State, along with his driver, his personal aide, and a policeman who were brutally murdered. The House further notes that the abduction occurred around 1900 hours as Chief Lawson's convoy was ambushed by armed assailants in dark blue Sienna vehicle, leading to the tragic death of his driver and one other individual. Observes that this incident is not isolated, as in December 2024, another citizen was strayed from Akwa Ibom to Okwa East in Abia State and kidnapped under similar circumstances. The House is concerned that the rising incidents of violent kidnapping in Okwa East have instilled fear among residents, disrupted economic activities, and undermined public confidence in security agencies. Aware that despite the efforts of Abia State Police Command, including immediate deployment of tactical teams, the perpetrators of these heinous crimes remain at large, posing an ongoing threat to public safety. The House commends the swift response of the Commissioner of Police Danladi Issa, and his team for activating intensive patrols and urging the public to report any suspicious activity, including individuals with gunshot wounds or sighting of suspect's vehicle. The House resolves to urge the Inspector General of Police to intensify security operations in Okwa East and neighboring areas, deploy additional tactical units, and reinforcing local police stations with advanced surveillance equipment. The House called on the National Security Advisor to coordinate with state and local security agencies to develop a comprehensive strategy for combating organized crimes and preventing further abductions in the region. The House mandates the House Committee on Police Affairs to conduct an urgent fact-finding mission in Okwa East, engage with affected communities, and recommend legislative measures to strengthen security infrastructure. And finally, the House should observe a minute silence in honor of the individuals who lost their lives in the March 4 attack, while extending heartfelt condolences to their families and expressing solidarity with the abducted victims and loved ones. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Put the question. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to Committee on Police, National Security and Intelligence, and House Committee on Legislative Compliance.
Now to some other motions. The House, through a motion by an FCT lawmaker, Honorable Joshua Obika, called on the Office of the National Security Advisor, the NSA, to provide security agencies in the FCT with the necessary equipment to enhance their ability to effectively perform their duties. The motion.
The House notes that there have been increasing security challenges in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, which is capital of Nigeria, hosting the heads of executive, legislature, judiciary, and the diplomats, as well as their aides and family members. Aware that Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 99, as amended, declare the provision of security and welfare of the people as the primary purpose of government. Also aware that Section 299 A of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 99 as amended, vested legislative powers of the FCT in the National Assembly, which calls for passionate appeal for intervention by the House to support the provision of adequate security services within the FCT and makes intervention by the House to support the provision of the adequate security services in FCT. Disturbed that the 2024 scorecard of the FCT Police Command showed 1,077 suspected criminals were arrested within the FCT out of 1,426 cases reported, with 140 lives of police officers lost in the duty. Worried that recently the FCT Police Command has identified about 17 criminal black spots in the FCT, which includes Diplomatic Zone, the PDP Secretariat, Gwarimpa, Angwatifi, Mpape, Mabushi, and Maitama. Also worried that the lack of adequate security patrol vehicles and gadgets in the criminal black spots within the FCT has led to an increase armed robbery, targeted attacks, assassinations, kidnapping, and terrorism. Resolved to urge the Office of the National Security Advisor to support the security agencies in the Federal Capital Territory with patrol vehicles and security gadgets to enhance the provision of adequate security services within the Federal Capital Territory. Also mandates the Committee on the National Security Intelligence to ensure compliance. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
The ayes have it. This motion is referred to Committee on National Security and Intelligence.
From the Red Chamber now, the Senate within the week clarified that proposed social media bill before it for consideration is not aimed at suppressing freedom of expression, but rather seeking to address issues as taxation and record keeping for digital platforms operating in Nigeria. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, made the emphasis during the second reading of the bill being sponsored by Senator Ned Nwoko. Here is a little of that.
It's not just the most populous country in Africa. We are also one of the most active when it comes to digital engagement. With over 220 million people, social media has become an essential part of our daily lives. According to the Global Works Index, as reported by Business Insider Africa, Nigerians rank first in Africa and second globally in terms of daily social media usage, spending an average of 3 hours and 46 minutes online. Platforms such as Facebook, X, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, etc. have become indispensable to millions of our people. These platforms are not just tools of communication, they are ecosystems that influence our politics, shape our public opinion, drive entrepreneurship, and provide avenues for education and entertainment.
It definitely would have been different and much more streamlined. But at least the general idea is there, and his job was just to provide the general principles, not necessarily to go into details. So when they go into details at a public hearing, it will be clear. I don't want the world to misunderstand us as if the Senate is trying to gag the social media. No, that is not the intention here. The intention is for tax purposes and also to have a register of, in fact, it's good for them because now with the new tax innovation, if you are not making as a company up to 50 million in a year, you are exempted from taxation. And if you are an individual trader and you don't make up to 1 million, you don't have to pay tax. Or you make 1 million or under, you don't have to pay tax. So for the purpose of tax and for the purpose of clarity of what you are doing and for record purpose, I think this is a good bill. However, I was looking to see whether there is any way it will tend to gag the freedom of expression or tend to stop the business of, in quote, bloggers. There is no such thing. So when eventually it goes to the public hearing, I'm sure we'll be able to cross the T's and dot the I's before it comes back to the Senate.
And that's it on the Maize this week. We look forward to meeting again Friday next week at 8 p.m. Till then, check out all previous editions of The Maize on ASO Radio and Television YouTube channel. I am Rosemary Ukokotega. See you.